Hi, everyone. Good afternoon if you are in Hong Kong or Asia. Good morning if you are joining us from Europe. My name is Daniel Sheck, and I'm the co-chair for the FIX APAC Emerging Technologies and Innovations Working Group. And my co-chair, Matthew, is also based in Europe, who cannot join today, unfortunately. The working group investigates and reports on the role that the fixed trading community should have in the emerging technology space. For example, cryptocurrency, ESG. On behalf of fixed trading community, thank you for joining this Synapse webinar. Supported by more than 275 of the world's top financial services companies, fixed trading community is the non-profit industry-driven standards body that sit at the very heart of the global trading. It is independent and neutral, and these are the factors that have proven pivotal to the success. If you want to find out more, check out our website or follow us on LinkedIn. We are delighted today to have Edwin Lee from HKEX, together with a panel of distinguished speakers. Alessia from DTCC, Joanne from HSBC Asset Management, David from CSOP, to talk about Synapse. Before I pass it to Edwin, just a reminder that we have an ETF survey happening. And in addition, the FIX APAC Trading Summit is going to be held on September 2nd, which is next week. If you have not registered, now is the time to do so. Okay, without further ado, let me pass the microphone to Edwin.
Okay, thank you, Daniel, for the kickoff. And also thank you, the FIX APAC Emerging Tech and Innovation Working Group, for inviting me to this webinar. Especially, thank you, Daniel, for picking Synapse as a topic. Also, Edward, Sammy, and Barbara from the fixed trading community who orchestrate this webinar for us. So let me, first of all, start sharing my PowerPoint. Okay, great, thank you. So before I present, right, today's topic is slightly different from the usual trading-related topic on FIX. Myself and the distinguished panelists will present about the post-trade initiative called HKEX Synapse. The presentation will be split into two sessions. The first half would be a joint presentation by myself and Alexei, who is the Director of Strategic Partnership APAC from DTCC, to talk about Synapse model, key requirements, and some timeline, right? Second half, it's my honor to moderate a panel. We have invited Joanne Lau, Director and Head of Business Support from HSBC Global Asset Management, Mr. David Ng, COO from CSOP Asset Management, and also Alexei will join the panel discussions as well. So without further ado, let's kick off the presentation. Okay, so this is the background of Synapse. A fantastic story about Stock Connect. We have a great story to tell. As you can see from this chart, from left to right, the chart is showing you the Northbound monthly average daily volume, the buy and sell trade, starting from 2017 all the way to March 2020. The reason why I'm showing this particular period of time is because if you can still remember back then in 2018, MSCI, the index company, announced that the inclusion of A shares into their flagship MSCI Emerging Market Index. As soon as that has been announced, we as an exchange operator and the Stock Connect mechanism operator, we receive a number of inquiries coming from the buy side, the sell side, and the custodian, asking how to access A shares via the Stock Connect channel, because the inclusion announcement actually specified that, it's because the Stock Connect mechanism being so matured, widely adopted, and it's stable, institutional investors have less concern about the Stock Connect channel's sustainability. MSCI feel comfortable to start including A shares and accessing the A shares via the Stock Connect channel. And with that announcement, we have a lot of inquiries coming with regards to the trading model, settlement model. And as you can see from this chart, later on in 2019, mid-year, we have also got the announcement from FTSE Russell's A-share inclusions. As you can see, the volume spikes up. In terms of the turnover, it increased with a lot of spikes over time. And in terms of number of shares included in the Stock Connect, also in the indices have been broadened. So it's a great story to tell. However, that sort of gives us a settlement challenge, as a lot of you from the joining us from the audience, Stock Connect is the T0 settlement market, which means what? Which means that they sort of introduce a lot of settlement related challenges to the custodians and the clearing brokers. So that sort of kicks off the Synapse journey. As a responsible, clearinghouse operator, we figure out that, we should up the game by providing a better settlement services to our participants and the Stock Connect investment community. So we work with a digital asset company, basically come up with a proof of concept model that includes the middle office allocation, block and allocation matching service, an integration into the back office system, and also try to integrate into CCAS. With that model, we did a round of global roadshows. We showcased that proof of concept model to buy side, sell side, and custodians. We got a lot of positive feedback from the investment community saying that this is a great, first time ever me as a buy side being able to see all these settlement status coming from my custodians and all the way coming back from CSDs and the brokers. Fantastic. That sort of increased the level of transparency. And point two, that sort of eliminate the sequential processes, given the demo is provided by a digital asset. Fantastic, great. So in 2019, we've conducted around 60 different workshops, having some serious consultation with, again, 60 in total, including buy side, custodian, and sell side, asking them if they are willing to become our pilot users of the platform. That being said, having their okay and green light, then the HKAs will start to invest into this project and be a bit more serious about providing a better service. The feedback started to become a little bit mixed back then because a couple of things. One, buy side community is sharing the feedback saying that, hey, we're using a very dominant block and allocation matching service provider called DTCC ITP. Custodian are saying that, hey, fantastic. However, this one-stop solution is a huge learning curve. Cost of adoption is not small. Blockchain to them back then is still pretty new. They would rather interface Synapse with existing technology that they can use, for example, ISO, Swift, and the existing connectivity that they can leverage with the HKEX. So we changed it, the model a little bit, keeping the functionality and features that they like. So we changed it a little bit by offering an integrated model, which means what? Which means we interface Synapse into DTCC OMGEO, or CTM, sorry, and also interface with ISO channel into the Swift network, and also offering the digital asset smart contract API if they choose to interface Synapse with the API. With that change, we've got all the thumbs up from brokers, buy side, and custodians say, hey, great, fantastic. That sort of hugely lower the cost of adoption, and that sort of helps them to speed up the time to market for such a great solution. So fantastic. So that's 2019 Q4. We published the service description. People looked at the workflow that we proposed. Great, fantastic. Go ahead, HKAs. We love the model. Then with that, we conducted a series of assessments on the workflow, validating the assumption. We also did an RFP back then to have a serious look into the technical solutions. And Q4, we came up with this press release announcement. We're very happy to be able to partner with DTCC ITP solution that includes the CTM. Partner with them, we can then penetrate into 6,000 global institutional buy side and sell side. We are able to partner up with digital asset to provide the core technology platform to build Synapse. We are able to partner with Swift to offer the ISO standards to the global custodians and broker community. So then we kick off the pilot group program earlier this year. We try to solicit some real interest, from the community. So with that, we have announced a list of buy side and custodian names earlier in the year. We're very happy. And today, in particular, we have two of them joining the panel discussion. Okay, so with that, if I may pass my time to Alexei to present the Stock Connect challenge and the Synapse model. Alexei, over to you.
Thank you, Edwin, and thanks everyone for joining the presentation on panel today. So let's start off by walking through the existing workflow that you can see on the slide. So this is a pretty standard post-trade workflow in global markets. The asset manager at the top left of the chart, they send their order to their broker who executes on the exchange and then sends the trade details back. The trade details would typically then be populated into the asset manager's order management system, and then they'll match their trade with their brokers via CTM or whatever process that they're using with the tax fees and commissions agreed. The trade details are normally enriched with settlement instructions, and a settlement message is then sent down to their global custodian. The global custodian performs their checks and balances, KYC, good funding checks, etc., and then sends the instruction down to the local custodian who's performing their final checking before sending down to CCAS. On the other side of the trade, the exchange participant, who is typically also the clearing participant, so i.e. the broker, send their settlement instruction down to CCAS. This sequential model of the workflow is consistent with global markets, which are mainly T+2. Now, for Stock Connect, there's a 3.5-hour settlement window, and so challenges have arisen, which are mentioned on the right side of the slide, that result in firms implementing a variety of processes to handle Stock Connect. In addition, the market participants, especially on the buy-side workflow that I just described down to CCAS, may lack visibility into the trade before settlement if the instructions cannot be sent down in time. This in turn raises concerns over operational risk, meaning some firms may be restricted in terms of their trading. Finally, as Edwin mentioned earlier, we've also seen increased flows with the ongoing index inclusion of China into MSCI and other indices, raising the need for a more robust and scalable solution for the market. So, Edwin, if we can move on to the next slide. And before we look at the new Synapse workflow, I just want to take a minute to explain DTCC's ITP no-touch workflow. So ITP, if people aren't aware, stands for Institutional Trade Processing and refers to a set of solutions which, when brought together, can bring a no-touch workflow to clients for their post-trade. A workflow where there doesn't need to be manual intervention or touch points in the process through to settlement. I'm going to quickly describe the no-touch workflow. It's already live in the US before I then go through the Synapse workflow. So if I describe the no-touch workflow more generally, first of all, as before, the trade is executed by the broker on the exchange and then matched between the two parties via CTM. CTM is DTCC's platform for central trade matching of domestic and cross-border transactions. Once matched, the trade is enriched via Alert. Alert is the global database of standing settlement instructions, or SSIs. Alert currently contains over 11 million SSIs, which are maintained by global custodians, as well as the buy-side firms and brokers. The trade information plus that enrichment can then be sent to a custodian or other third party, or CSD, via settlements management in the form of a notification. Settlements management acts as a gateway, where the firm will also be able to see and manage settlement status and exceptions via DTCC Exception Manager, or DXM. Finally, data analytics via our benchmark reports can help clients analyze their operational efficiency and also compare their performance to industry averages. So now I'm going to talk to the Synapse workflow, which is very similar, or where the Hong Kong Exchange has effectively taken elements of the no-touch workflow and incorporated into Synapse for an improved workflow for the participants for Stock Connect. So all trades will be matched in CTM with the correct SSIs from the Alert database, and the settlement message will be sent directly to Synapse. So that's a major difference from the current workflow. So the settlement message for Synapse won't be sent to the global custodian, it's sent directly to Synapse. The various interested parties to the trade, so the global custodian, the local custodian, the clearing participant, can then view the trade instantaneously in Synapse. This workflow in Synapse is outside of DTCC. I can say that Synapse supports Swift ISO 20022 and also offers a DAML API for those participants to connect, providing optionality to the market. This will remove the sequential workflow removes manual touch points, standardizes the workflow, and improves transparency for all participants. In terms of DXM, you'll see on there, there's also DTCC Exception Manager in the process. This is being used solely for investment managers to view any edge case exceptions that may occur, which will be communicated back by HKX to the investment managers via DXM. So Edwin, with that, that's the workflow. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexei. Thank you so much. So, if I may continue the presentation, the slides shows you the updated Synapse timeline. Now, all this timeline that's shown on the slides, it's indicative. We're still in the middle of the Synapse implementation. I know a lot of you from the buy side audience, from the sell side audience have been asking for updates for a long, long time. So with this timeline, I'm hoping that it sort of give you an idea in terms of where we are at and when we will publish information and when we are scheduling testing with different pilot groups. Bear in mind that this is a very innovative approach from HKEX perspective. First time ever, we're trying to implement a brand new platform alongside with pilot participants, giving full transparency to the investment community, make sure that they are aware of what's going on, at the same time collecting feedback while we're trying to develop a new platform. I think the good thing is that we have been receiving a lot of supportive feedback, a lot of positive comments around what functionality we should include and any blocking issues that we should address, etc., etc. So let me take this opportunity here to thank our pilot participant for giving all this great support and great feedback. It helped us to include new functionalities into Synapse while we are working on the design and validating our workflow. So that's why, with the new change request putting into the project, the timeline sort of shifted a little bit on the right. With this updated timeline, as you can see from this chart, today it's almost the end of August, and we are very close to being able to publish the second sets of API specifications for our custodians to review and look into, and we are targeting to publish the second sets of digital asset API for custodians, targeting sometime in November this year. With the end user testing onboarding documents should be ready by that time as well. So, exciting time. The specs, if any of you guys are interested to have a copy of it, come to me, come to us. There is a link on the website. You can request for it. We're happy to share. And in terms of the testing and market readiness timeline, we have updated it, as you can see, from December this year to late March next year, we will have the testing platform open up and ready for our initial pilot testing, for some market readiness functionality testing if they are ready. Then we will declare the pilot launch sometime in April. And we have also added additional testing window, 3 of them actually, that goes all the way to September next year. So in case if you're late in the pilot, and in case if you take a bit more time to develop the workflow and do further testing, that's fine. We will make sure that from HKEX perspective, we will have enough resources available for you to facilitate your testing and onboarding. Okay, so that's a high-level timeline. Now here's the requirement and tech specifications. Again, Synapse is a model we designed for northbound stock connect settlement at the moment. Of course, we have got a lot of incoming inquiries asking if we will extend to Hong Kong market, to other asset class. Absolutely yes, but first let us focus on the existing implementation, make sure that Synapse work for northbound stock connect settlement fast. So we will focus on that for the next 12 months or so, as you can see from the timeline. So that's the scope. And for the buy side stream and sell side stream, we will facilitate the SPSA model side of settlement. So for buy side stream, if your asset managers, global custodians, local custodians that you guys are adopting or servicing the SPSA model, fantastic. You're welcome to join. Sell side, similarly, outsourcing providers, clearing participants, account operators, as long as you're supporting SPSA model, Synapse will be able to service you. And then the requirement is, use of the DTCC ITP solutions. Buy side and sell side both of them needs to be on CTM, settlement management notification, alert, and DXM, as Alexei just described. Okay, so first phase, Synapse, pretty simple, support SPSA model. Buy side and sell side needs to be on DTCC. Okay. For connectivity options, user access, right? Synapse, we focus a lot on, building the community, servicing the investment community for Stock Connect, right? So that's why we come up with all these multiple different options. There will be a GUI, a Synapse UI available for all the participants. As long as they have the internet connectivity, they will be able to use different Synapse functionality over the UI, the user interface. For custodians and clearing brokers, you can connect into Synapse via ISO, or you can pick the digital asset smart contract API over the exchange proprietary SD network. If you're a direct participant of the clearinghouse, you are probably already on it. So that will sort of lower your infrastructure costs. So I think with these two options available, whether you are global custodians not directly connected to the clearinghouse, or you're local custodians or clearing brokers that are already on, you can pick and choose your connectivity options. It's STP, but of course, ISO functionalities over the Swift ISO messaging channel versus the digital asset smart contract API channel will be slightly different. As you can imagine, those transaction-based information will be able to send across the Swift network using the ISO standards, as you would expect. For the use of API, you can query or query the Synapse database through the API with additional functionalities, etc. There will be a connectivity workshops for targeting our custodians group, so they will have better understanding in terms of the differences, and also the specs. First ever have a high level overview of the specs tomorrow. Okay. Pilot participant feedback. Okay. This table here, I think it gives you the list of the pilot names that we announced so far. This is not the only names. We will continue to add more names into it over time. Like I said, we have conducted, we have a number of pilots joining the pilot program. We've conducted a number of deep dive workshops with them, to go through the workflow, to go through the fund onboarding processes. They understand our requirement. They validated a lot of our assumptions. They come up with a lot of suggestions as well. I think, the fact that, Synapse will offer them a concurrent process, provide a golden source of truth for Stock Connect settlement. I think they all love that. A majority of the participants, they preferred connecting into Synapse via this Start Digital Asset Smart Contract API. I mean, the custodians. So we are very happy. It seems that our custodians pilots preferred new API to connect into Synapse with a lot more features and functions available. So those are the findings, and I think this sort of the segue into the next part of the panel discussions. Then we can listen to our buy-side pilots firsthand. They can share a bit more, and they can explain to us, why they decided to join the the pilot program. Okay. Before going to that, there's a website. You can, of course, go to the Synapse web corner to download additional information. Okay. So thank you, and I will stop the presentation sharing. Okay. So I have a couple of questions for my panelists. First questions, if I may direct that to Alexei, from DDCC. Since DTCC ITP service buy side and sell side across different time zone, what kind of challenges that they face today for Stock Connect settlement? Alexei.
Thank you, Edwin. So I think that you mentioned time zone and what challenges that time zone presents. I think first of all, if you take a market, say outside of Stock Connect, Hong Kong market, Tokyo market, and you look at US investors trading those markets, right? So that workflow that I described, the current workflow, where they're matching their trade with the broker and then sending down enriching the trade and then sending the settlement instruction, settlement notification down to the global custodian, who's then sending down to the local custodian, who's sending down to the CSD. Already with a time zone issue, that can be difficult, but those markets are T+2. So T+2 provides that leeway, one, to get that message down the chain. Second of all, if there are any exceptions, to handle those exceptions within the T+2 timeframe. When you look at Stock Connect, which is for global investors, there's a time zone issue for US investors, European investors, potentially, but there's also a shortened settlement cycle. And this is really a key point operationally. Hong Kong is a T+2 market, China is a T+0 market, and China is a no fails market, meaning trades are guaranteed for settlement. So with Stock Connect, it's 3.5-hour window the firms have to settle. Looking at the time zone and the shortened settlement cycle for Stock Connect, let's take the example of an investor in New York trading Stock Connect. The Stock Connect system closes each day at around 3 a.m. New York time, meaning that they may need someone in the office to instruct the custodian before the market closes. If the global custodian is also in the US or Europe, then often the settlement notification might not get sent down to the local custodian or depository in time. And this has led to those variations in terms of workflows that have been implemented in the market. One example that is commonly referred to is single-sided settlement. So this is where the buy side signs paperwork to authorize the local custodian to accept the broker settlement instruction only. Conversely, some buy sides have indicated to us that they may not trade all of their funds, or trading may be restricted as their compliance don't allow them to solely rely on the broker message that is passed on to CCAS if the buy side message doesn't come down in before settlement. So if I put that another way, if you look at asset managers outside of the Asia time zone who don't have their middle office working APAC market hours, they have little choice but to accept the risk of proceeding to settlement, relying solely on the broker's confirmation of the details of the orders executed on the exchange. Many funds compliance don't allow this, which places restrictions on trading. And we have that feedback from clients, meaning there's a limitation on the investors connecting in. And I think that's very important with the index inclusion and the way that's rising that you spoke about earlier. Some custodians also require an early trading cutoff point to process settlement. Now, Stock Connect works well. Stock Connect is one option into China. It's overtaken the QFII program. So most of the time, firms are managing the process, but we've also heard from clients that during periods of rebalancing portfolios, this puts an acute strain on the process and accentuates the operational challenges that we mentioned earlier. So I think in summary, these are some of the reasons why HKX has been developing Synapse. And as I mentioned earlier, the no-touch workflow will allow global investors to achieve a low or no-touch process for their post-trade workflows in Synapse. This has been highlighted early on by HKX and incorporated into the Synapse workflow to alleviate these issues.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And Joanne, since we heard all this feedback from Alexei from a global standpoint, do you echo his view? Are you having similar challenge? Would Synapse be able to improve the service for your overseas client in different time zone?
Yeah, definitely. I think what Alex has mentioned is a real difficulty for the current global investor particularly. As you know, we have increasing demand from global investor, and from time to time their point the global custodian may not be Asian time zone. So they pose a real challenge for them, to catch up with the local custodian to meet up the T+0 settlement cycle. So, from my experience, we do have, some discussion with some potential client, and they kind of hold up because of, this challenge. And I think Synapse now can revamp the traditional settlement flow. It's kind of remove the dependency, of all this time zone limitation per se. And I think ultimately this can help buy side particularly that we can reduce, those settlement risks. And also, any chance of force, canceled in the market. And I think if that Synapse, from my perspective, I think it can open the door, for the opportunity for more global investors to tap in the stock connect market.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Yes, I would echo your point. This is exactly why we go through that Synapse journey. Some of the global investors less familiar with Stock Connect, we will enable them to be able to standardize the process. So thank you, Joanne. So David, how do you see Synapse can help address the pain point for your ETF products, that benchmark against the A50?
Thanks, Alvin. I think the panelists, Joanne and Alexi, have alluded to global investors. So CSOP we have funds domiciled in Hong Kong, same time zone. The reality is for Connect trades, when we are trying to force fit a T0 settlement model into a T+2 established settlement cycle in Hong Kong, that's a challenge. And as a result of that, for us, local managers having funds domiciled in Hong Kong, it's also an operational challenge because literally the market closes at 3:30. We have about 105 minutes to be exact to settle our trades. So it's a rush. And I think there are two main areas that I think Synapse can help, and that's the reason why CSOP signed up for this. One, I think, is to create a standard systemized settlement workflow for Connect trades. I think that's important because of that discrepancy that I just mentioned earlier. We have created bespoke processes in-house to basically facilitate the current workflow. And from a scalability perspective, when you have manual bespoke processes, I think scalability is going to be out of question unless I throw bodies at it. I invest a lot into systems to do the matching. I think it's going to be a challenge. So that's point number one. And second thing we are particularly attracted to is with Synapse, we talked about deployment of demo or smart contracts. So that means on a blockchain technology, we are able to create settlement instructions and provide instant status updates on a real-time basis. I think that's a very powerful tool. I think if you look at the previous model or the current model, actually, to be exact, we talk about sequential processing. Sequential processing means that for asset managers, we tend to be at a tail end of the settlement cycle. And if we are told a settlement exception just 5 minutes before cutoff, I think you can imagine the amount of operational pressure that we'd be under. So I think this is exceptionally important for us as an asset manager with a very large ETF. On rebalancing days, we're talking about very large flows. And the thing is, when we have just about over an hour to settle all our trades, I think I really need to have a status update throughout the settlement process, because in a no-fill market, it's a taboo. Just imagine as a regulated fund, the amount of reporting that we have to do for that. So I think in that sense, this is actually a key feature of Synapse that we're particularly interested in. And the removal of that sequential processing to us is a big deal.
Thank you, David. And this is exactly the point, right? Just to echo your point, Synapse, because we will provide updates, transparency, not just to custodians or our clearing participants, but it will also provide status update back to the buy side via the interface provided by CTM, and also with all these timestamps. As soon as there's an update, you should be able to see it. So, just to reiterate the fact that why we go through that journey, and with the Stock Connect volume continue to grow, we expect more stocks being included into the eligibility list. Definitely, we're hoping Synapse will be able to address some of the challenge. Okay, next question. Alexi. Alexi, what do you see as the benefit, Synapse will bring to the market?
Thanks, Edwin. So I think this is best addressed by looking at the near-term benefit, then the longer-term benefit. What I mean by the near-term benefit is when Synapse goes live for Stock Connect. In that sense, the participants are going to benefit in different ways. The buy side is going to benefit from the ability to open new funds to trade, Stock Connect, or trade more from their existing funds, as we've all just discussed. This scalability is going to be especially important with your ongoing index inclusion of China. As investors trade more, this will in turn benefit the brokers. The direct participants in Synapse, so the global custodians, the local custodians, and the clearing participants, will all benefit from instantaneous visibility into the settlement process. The Synapse provides a permissioned central view of the trade for all parties. Global custodians will benefit from real-time settlement transparency rather than having to communicate back and forth with the local custodians. In addition, they can also receive direct updates from CCAS via Synapse. Local custodians will benefit because they're not having to wait for the global custodian to pass down a message before initiating the settlement process. As soon as the message hits Synapse, they can start the settlement process straight away. So they're the near-term benefits that I see when Synapse goes live. If we now consider the longer term, and specifically, I'm thinking what could be next for Synapse, I think it's very interesting when you layer in the global discussions that are happening around markets potentially moving to T+1. If settlement windows are reduced from T+2 to T+1, then global investors will definitely benefit from an enhanced system, such as the no-touch workflow, such as Synapse, designed and proven to increase efficiency and settlement finality. So at DTCC, just to share some statistics, we observed earlier this year, so the no-touch workflow is already live in the US, okay? So we observed earlier this year when the no-touch workflow is being used by clients in the US, 98.3% of trades are affirmed by 9 p.m. on T0 versus only 39.5% of firms that aren't using the no-touch workflow. So I suggest if Synapse is successful for Stock Connect, it could provide a robust solution for the local Hong Kong market, as well as potentially other markets looking to move to T+1. Edwin, what's your view on that?
I think definitely, echoing your point, it's the robustness, streamlining the settlement processes, being able to interface, upstream and downstream workflow. I definitely echo your point. And if I may ask you another question, from your experience, TTCC standpoint, since you guys have been managing a global platform for a couple of decades now, what's the biggest challenge, to bring client on board onto a new platform like Synapse? Because this is a new journey. We have been a successful exchange operator for a number of years, a monopoly. But from your standpoint, bringing a global community together, is there any suggestions? What's the biggest challenge? What's your view?
Sure, thank you, Edwin. So I've been at DTCC in the post-trade space for 10 years, and I've seen the various initiatives across the industry, different exchanges, markets, vendors, etc. I think in my viewpoint, the biggest challenge bringing a new solution to market is typically community building, especially when the system relies on communication between multiple parties such as Synapse. In this case, I would say that HKX has largely mitigated that challenge by working with DTCC to have our ITP services connect in as the entry point to Synapse, because we have 6,500 clients globally on ITP services across 88 countries. And also, you've incorporated existing standards. You've got that option for ISO 20022 messages via Swift, as well as DAML API for participants to connect into Synapse. So what I actually see here as the challenge that we have that we're addressing comes down to the success of the pilot, first of all, and then also ensuring market awareness to those interested parties outside of the initial pilot group at the right time. Some of the initial participants are shown on the Synapse website that Edwin flashed up earlier on the slides. And other firms have also indicated they wish to join shortly after go live. So I know both DTCC, HKX have allocated resources to onboard firms, and I would suggest that firms may take a period of months to go through the workflow, go through the requirements. And I suggest they contact HKX or their DTCC relationship manager with plenty of lead time if they're interested in Synapse. Thanks, Edwin.
Right, thank you, Alexei. I think, yeah, just trying to echo your point that, for the last, half year or so, the team here, trying to build the community, trying to offer the right solution. And we're very thankful that, we have a lot of support from the custodians, from the buy side, so, we've been very thankful. They validated a lot of our assumptions and given a lot of suggestions as well. So hopefully, knock on wood, we'll follow the timeline tightly and we will be able to deliver the solution Q1 next year. Joanne, before I go to David, right? So, what do you think, from your perspective, what are the critical success factor for Synapse, and what's the natural next step, for us to consider?
I think once, pilot testing is done, then next step is probably to bring up the market awareness on this platform, because as a buy side, our how we can maximize the benefits that we have, more and more sell sides to join, so that we can maximize the benefit. And also, again, I think both of us, the IM and also the broker, would like to reduce those settlement risks as much as possible. So I think that needs to be promoted in the market. That's what I think next step that we need to, you guys need to do properly.
Yep. We're on it. Yes. I think that's exactly why, it's important. We will continue to market Synapse and continue to work with yourself and David, and the other buy side pilots, to make sure their brokers will join on board. And I know, a lot of the brokers here, who are in the audience, they're anxious about, when we will engage and et cetera, et cetera. Rest assured, we will reach out. Don't, you're not forgotten. It's just that, we would like to make sure we have the buy side workflow validated, functionality included. We build one side of the workflow first, and then, we will have all these requirements coming from the buy side and the custodians. We will start building it, and sometime later this year, we'll reach out to the sell side to kick off the same process, and we will go through the workshops, validate our assumptions for the sell side workflow, come up with suggestions, put in new functionality, requests, et cetera, et cetera. So we will go through the exact same process, but one step at a time. Okay, so thank you, Joanne. Very good feedback for that, for Synapse. David, what about you? Critical success factor and the next step for Synapse.
Thanks, Evan. I think we are all in consensus. For any ecosystem or platform solution to be deployed, I think the number one key success factor must be our ability to build a community, get the participants as quickly as possible in the ecosystem. I think it helps that the Hong Kong Exchange as a central clearing counterparty is standing right in the middle of it. And I think that basically helps the cause a lot. And I think is for participants in the ecosystem, I think to help facilitate that attraction of participants into the ecosystem, I think the onboarding process, I think Alexei might have alluded to the point earlier about getting participants into the ecosystem. I think it should be made seamless. I think there's a lot of obviously introducing a new ecosystem, a platform to an industry. I think that's a lot of friction that we have to kind of we are basically disrupting workflows. I think the benefits as presented to participants must be very clear, and I think is in the onboarding process to how to be plugged into the ecosystem needs to be intuitive. That encourages the use of the ecosystem, and I think it helps in that case in the sense that DTCC is core in that sense, because it is an industry great ITP solution that I think a lot of us probably in this forum and as well the participants on this call are using as well. So I think that will help to go a long way, because I think most of us already are onboarded onto DTCC's CTM. I mean, as an example. So I think that's for me is the critical success factor if you want to make Synapse a success for for the investment community here.
Okay. Yeah, I think. Thank you, David. Yes, exactly the point. Synapse community play. We will ensure that it's a seamless process, onboarding process. We will build new procedures around it. We will build service around it to make sure we will be able to support your requests as a buy side. I think with that, I think we can for the audience there, feel free to type the questions into the Q&A box. We have received a few of them, so I think we can I think I can direct some of those questions to my distinguished guests to answer some of them. I think I will pick up some of them to answer it as well. So if I may, please, audience, you can type the questions into the Zoom Q&A box, and we will pick up some of them, if not all, and answer them one by one. Okay. First question, I will just read it out loud, and I will invite my panelists to answer. Right. First question is, who is running the Synapse platform? Is it a platform maintained by multiple different organizations, or is it just a centralized private platform? The users just connect the platform via the API. So I think I can pick this one up. HKEX, we are managing running the Synapse platform. It's a centralized platform maintained by HKEX. So it's not a multiple different organizations. And in the scope or in the objective of Synapse, right, we're trying to build a platform that is, we call it the critical market infrastructure that is equal to CCaaS, which means that we're hoping to implement and maintain Synapse at the same level of high availability, with all the backup, full resiliency, just like CCaaS. So with that objective and goals in mind, we're hoping that Synapse will be running as highly available as CCaaS. Also, whether that's how the users connect into the platform, for the custodians or clearing broker or clearing participant, we call it. There are options for them. They can use the UI, they can use the ISO channel via SwiftNet. They're also welcome to develop, the Damo smart contract API interface and connect into Synapse via the SD network. Okay, so that's the first question. And for buy side and sell side, as in asset managers and broker dealers, they can leverage the CTM service, with the support of DTCC alert, settlement management for notification, and also the DXM module. They will be able to see the updates coming from Synapse. They will be able to generate instructions via the settlement management for notifications. So we're hoping that getting the match to feed directly from CTM, that will sort of help us to generate the so-called single combined view. And immediately, as soon as the trade is matched, the counterparties, including global custodians, local custodians, and clearing participants, as in the clearing brokers, will be able to receive the instructions real time. Okay. Second questions. I think I need a yes.
I'll just add to that as well. In terms of who's managing, who's operating Synapse, then clearly it's HKEX. I mean, from DTCC's perspective, we have a partnership with HKEX for supporting Synapse. As Edwin mentioned, users upstream from Synapse would be using ITP services, and then the settlement message is being sent into Synapse, in this case, rather than sent to the global custodian. So that's the key difference. And then the message is coming back to the investment manager via DXM are being sent by Synapse. But the Synapse ecosystem, if you like, the Synapse system is fully managed by HKEX.
Thank you, Alexi. So please don't put on mute yet. The second question, it's also kind of related to CTM as well. So what is the second question? It's what is the role of FIX in Synapse? Right. Very good question. I think I would answer from Synapse perspective first, and Alexi, please jump in. Fix as a protocol, yes, we are open to it. In fact, the clearinghouse, as in HKEX as a group, we have developed a new platform. This is outside of Synapse, but just to give you a bit of a color, we've developed a new gateway called Post-Trade Gateway. It will enable a translation of multiple different protocols into the Synapse protocol, into different HKEX services, protocol. So with that gateway in place, definitely, it will be able to support protocol like FixML in the future. So definitely, it's in view. We have, a messaging layer in place that it's ready. So what we're waiting right now is we wanted to make sure we can go live with Synapse Workflow Plus first, and Fix. We would be keeping view at the moment, but definitely it's under consideration. From upstream standpoint, Alexi, what's your view? Fix in this workflow.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, I'm obviously not sure who asked the question, but if you're a buy side or a sell side and you would like to connect into CTM to match your trades with your counterparties, then absolutely DTCC supports the use of fixed messaging into CTM. We have different connectivity types. Most firms will connect in through whatever vendor they're using for their order management system, who have certified partner interfaces into CTM. If a firm wants to build their own interface, they can do that via XML. There's CSV files. There's also fixed supported. So, you can join Synapse with the current workflow and with Fix and send your messages into CTM, and off you go from there down the workflow chain that we've been discussing.
Yep. Thank you, Alexi. Yeah, I think one of the key success factor for Synapse as we see it is to make sure that we have the interoperability. Fix is definitely one of them. It's something that we will seriously consider in the future. But right now, we're still focusing on the immediate rollout at the moment. Okay, thank you. So, interesting question. Third question is about the settlement window. Okay, are there any moves, by HKEX to extend the settlement window? For example, running the first batch later in the day. Would we consider it? I think, I was trying to answer this, and maybe David can share a bit more, later. My view is that, the existing batch run, I think it will stay as it is, for Stock Connect. There are lots of different questions around, can exchange try to negotiate a longer settlement cycle with China Inc. for Stock Connect? Can it be aligned with T+2? But we receive a complete different view from China Inc. with regards to the settlement window. They would prefer T0. They believe that it's a better settlement cycle than the T+2. But David, what's your view on this settlement cycle, T+0 versus T+2?
That's a loaded one, Edwin. So, frankly, from an asset manager's perspective, we would tend towards a shorter settlement cycle. Not from an operational perspective, but purely from an investment manager's perspective in terms of our funds, especially on the secondary market liquidity, where we have market makers, we have very important players, roles in the market that requires real-time DVP. And the thing is, I think it helps to facilitate the liquidity, and which is great for our products, ETFs. The better liquidity that we see with the underlying and then translating into our ETFs, I think that helps where we have surety in terms of that settlement cycle that goes through and through from the underlier to the ETF, where we do pricing of our ETFs. I think for us, I think we probably will tend towards the T0 settlement cycle will be probably better for us. But clearly, for my operations team, that will be obviously an immense challenge trying to get to that short settlement cycle.
Yeah, understood. Joanne, any view from you? Settlement cycle.
Yeah, probably the same view as what David has mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Okay, if that's the case, and now we'll move on to the next question, right? With the gradual promotion of Synapse and the benefit that it will bring, do you see a migration away from the so-called custody model where the GC and the broker are the same entity? Oh, that's the integrated model, right? To the segregated model, I call it the SPSA model that allows IM to realize the real benefits of Synapse. I think a great question, and that's exactly the reason why, you know, we as the Stock Connect operator, right, we will for sure like to promote the so-called SPSA model, you know, allowing the investment management to pick their own brokers to achieve you know, best execution. You know, custodians, you know, they can pick and choose. So I think, you know, after, I think it's a natural evolution. You know, we started off Stock Connect journey, you know, with our SPSA. There are also some challenge and issue to maintain the right sellable balance. Then we invented SPSA, and now we have Synapse. Oh, sorry, we also have a master SPSA to aggregate all the SPSA position together. So I think it's a natural evolution. You know, from our standpoint, we definitely promote the usage of SPSA. Joanne, what's your view?
Yes, as an IM, we welcome, or we, you know, have the preference of SPSA because of the best execution concern. So I think SPSA do allow us to range of best execution, while that somehow introduce a higher level of settlement risk. And I think Synapse can somehow remediate this level of settlement risk, you know, by, again, that remove that traditional instruction flow. So I would say yes, with the introduction of Synapse, then I would expect the market will take up, you know, more and more SPSA model.
Right, thank you. That's very encouraging. David, what about you?
I think we are in line in terms of our views. Definitely it is something that we take very seriously about in terms of the best execution practices and SPSA model, which is basically now the current model of choice that we have for all our funds trading Stock Connect. But obviously with the evolution of Synapse, I think I'm not sure if that current SPSA model will still be so as relevant as it is today.
Yeah, if I may supplement a little bit, right? From our point of view, you know, we've seen, you know, an exponential growth in terms of number of SPSA account registration, particularly after the you know, MSCI and subsequently for the index inclusion enhancement. You know, we've seen exponential growth back then, you know, from you know, hundreds of accounts to become like tens of thousands of accounts that we have right now. You know, at peak, we received, you know, hundreds of SPSA account applications just from a couple of you know, stakeholders. So it's you know, I would say it's becoming more and more popular. I think, you know, from an exchange standpoint, this is the way forward. That's why we're trying to standardize the settlement model by leveraging Synapse as a technology platform. Okay, so thank you. Okay, going down the questions. Thank you, audience. Sell side, you know, when would it be ready? You know, thank you. Sell side, as I mentioned, we will reach out to the sell side community. We will go through SIFMA. We will reach out to our sell side participant, make sure that they are aware, you know, when the information are ready, when we will kick off the pilot sessions with them. It's an open approach. You know, we're not ignoring the sell side. It's a very important piece of the puzzle. It's just that, you know, we kick off with the buy side, you know, program first to make sure we have the right workflow. We will engage sell side subsequently. So don't worry, you will hear from us very soon. Okay, next question. Do you foresee Synapse will be deployed in Hong Kong market if the result on Stock Connect is positive If so, how long will HKEX need to come up with the model? Pressure. Thank you. Good point. I think I can share a little bit more into the Synapse roadmap, right? Yes, we are considering to deploy Synapse into Hong Kong market. This is again, given the assumption that Stock Connect workflow goes smoothly, we have a supporting community, supporting pilot group. This is certainly in the so-called pipeline. So yes, thank you. We hear the suggestions and sort of reiterate the fact that this is an important piece of infrastructure that can support both Stock Connect and Hong Kong market. Also, how long will HKEX needs to come up with the model? I think this is still too early at this point in time. We're still busy with the Stock Connect workflow. We're trying to make sure it works as we promised. So give us a fair bit of time. Once we have confirmed the roadmap, once we've confirmed and prioritized, what it should be ready next, we will announce it to the whole world. So, but thank you for the suggestions. But Joanne, David, are you sharing same comment? Deploy into Hong Kong market.
I mean, personally, I think Synapse is it's a great model. I mean, if obviously if the pilot program, if the Stock Connect settlement cycle goes through, I don't see why not that we could deploy on the Hong Kong exchange, because like I mentioned, the removal of the instantaneous updates that all participants in the settlement cycle can get, I think that's really important, and it helps with the whole liquidity of the market. I believe that there will be a positive impact in terms of attracting flows to Hong Kong. So definitely, it's something that I hope to see Hong Kong Exchange deploy into the Hong Kong market as well.
Great, thank you.
I think certain settlement cycle is the market trend, so that's something probably for HKEX to consider for Hong Kong market as well.
Okay. Oh, okay. Great suggestion. Thank you. Yes, there are a lot of discussions around shortening the settlement cycle as well. So Hong Kong being T+2, would we consider to move to T+1? Interesting discussion. So, but with Synapse, if it works for Stock Connect, right? So why not, supporting Hong Kong, and it is possible to help moving the settlement cycle to T+1 possible. So thank you. Okay. Next question. As the market in China expands and demand for Chinese securities grow, do you see any potential for fungibility between, interesting, onshore trade securities and Stock Connect trade securities, for example, via CCAS? This is an interesting question, fungibility between the onshore program versus the Stock Connect program. I don't think we can share too much comment here. Right now, it's not fungible. But yeah, and Synapse, Synapse, whether potentially we can extend to support QFII, we have heard something similar from other pilots as well. So, but again, keeping view, interesting discussion. Can't share too much comment at the moment. Other question? Okay. Okay, interesting. So some of the challenges for adopting new technology for Stock Connect, right? Where investment managers wants to innovate. For example, non-integrated model, master SBS account, etc. They are held back by one or two end funds. Would investment managers need to use Synapse for all funds managed, or can they pick and choose? From technology standpoint, the answer is yes. You can pick and choose, but I wanted to hear it directly from our buy-side pilots. Joanne, what's your view for your funds onboarding?
Yes, what I understand from the pilot testing is yes, we can select funds to be onboarded, or for certain reason, if that fund cannot be onboarded, that is a choice. That's my understanding from the panel testing.
Yep, that's right. So David, anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think that's a choice, but I guess this question really is a question of a compromise between flexibility and moving on to a single model of settlement. And I guess it varies from different fund managers, but clearly from my point of view, as an operational model where I want to simplify it. Yeah, I think at some stage, if I do get big enough, we will like to give up on the flexibility to choose to move to a standardized model.
Thank you, Joanne and David. Alexei, what's your view, right? Because you manage DTCC ITP. You guys manage the platform. Those are already on board onto CDM for Stock Connect. What's your view, right? Besides the flexibility, do you think over time, once we're up and running, once it's fully tested, what's your view on this, right? Would you expect a lot more buy side joining the workflow, enabling all the funds? What's your view?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think if Synapse achieves the goals that HKX have laid out for the platform and alleviates those workflow issues in the market, and that's proven via the pilot, then we can expect a lot more funds to join Synapse. I know globally, there's a lot of firms who've said they don't trade, right? So buy sides in the US, in Europe, not trading Stock Connect or limited trading. So this is opening the door. It's an avenue for them to then be able to trade this market. And I'd expect that to happen if it's successful. I think with what we've seen with firms on the pilot, some firms and other firms showing interest, is they want to, of course, take a cautious approach, test a few funds. So as you mentioned before, it's SPSA account level, right? So a few funds onto Synapse, leave some other funds on Stock Connect. And then again, it'll be up to that firm on the benefits and risks of each one in terms of where they move going forward. But I think it's great that, again, HKX are giving that optionality to firms so they can do that. It's not a big bang forced migration. It's not Stock Connect closing down and you have to move all your funds onto Synapse if you want to keep trading this market. Not at all. And the pilot is giving that opportunity for, when we say pilot, and if we define this pilot, it's really advanced testing. It's a lot of testing end to end with HKX, with DTCC, with the pilot firms to ensure smooth go live. So I think that pretty much answers the question, right, Edward?
Thank you, Alex. Okay, and then moving on, the next question, interesting. One of the audience would like to know a bit more about alerts, right? Since we are partnering with the DTCC ITP solution, with the alert enrichment, the SSI will be populated directly, by the global custodians into alert to ensure the accuracy of the data. Any comments from the team? Let's say from Joanne, because alert, it's there, to help us to maintain the SSI database, etc. So Joanne, what's your view? Any particular comments?
Yes, we're doing the testing. I think Gaia is responsible to build SSIs in the system. So we have also share a comment that is there a way to leverage on alert so that work can be kind of reduced. And I think the team is taking our comment and looking into that. So I kind of agree the feedback from the audience, just from Paul.
Thank you, Joanne. David?
No, I tend to agree with the comments by Joanne and Paul in terms of leveraging one of the key advantages of DTCC, which we are plugged into, and it's obviously leveraging on that alert enrichment that we have with CTM. So definitely is a plus point, and it definitely was one of our considerations.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Edwin, and if I may interject on that, I mean, I mentioned before the alert database has over 11 million SSIs. It's the gold standard for settlement instructions. ITP is processing 3.2 million institutional trades a day. And the alert database is not just for equities, it's fixed income and increasingly FX instructions. And maintained by the buy side and the sell side, but increasingly also maintained by the global custodians via our GC Global Custodian Direct Service. So I think plugging into that is fantastic for the market.
Okay, good point. Thank you. So with that, I think that's pretty much those questions that we received from the audience. I hope that the answers from the distinguished guests here in the panel give you satisfactory answers. And with that, if I may pass the time back to Sammy, I think this is the end of the Q&A session.